Heyo everybody, Haku here with a review, discussion, don't know how long it's gonna be because I have a lot to say, for Magical Girl Raising Project or Mahou Shoujo Ikusei Keikaku Restart Part 2. If you haven't been around recently, I've been rereading Magical Girl Raising Project and doing these reviews and discussions as I go. And for the longest time, whenever anybody asks me what my favorite thing I've read is, whether it be novels or manga, whether it be stuff I've read for the channel or stuff I've just read on my own, I always say Magical Girl Raising Project Restart. I kind of lump part 1 and part 2 in together with that. Part 1 provided like a really good setup. Again, I always say one of the things it does best is really develops the characters as people. The 3 days off that we get with the characters like interacting as normal human beings, I think adds to it a lot. I think the entire setup of going back and forth each 3 days and having the characters meet up at the end of each period really leads to a good setup for the arc. But part 2 was just non-stop, start to finish, incredible. Like, it made me tear up so many times, made me cry even. It was so good. But yeah, either way, let's talk about it from start to finish. It really lives up to me saying that it's my favorite thing I ever read. Going into it, rereading it, there was a little bit of apprehension where it's like, oh no, is it not going to be quite as amazing as I remember it? But no way, it was incredible. It was so good. So I think it really lives up to me hyping it up so much. There's so much fine detail in it, so many small hints at things that pay off incredibly well. The character depth is amazingly done. I think the art for the illustrations and all is very good. Yep, the character writing's great. All of it's great. So I'm going to actually go through it. I did that a little bit less with my last 2 discussions, but because there is so much to bring up and so much to talk about, I'm actually going to go through it sort of chronologically. So we start off with the dragon fight. We kind of get cliffhung with the dragon fight and the seeming apparent death of Genosuke Yumenashima and that Nyan Nyan there, and I mean, for Nyan Nyan it kind of is, but we get cliffhung on that, and we get the dragon fight actually at the beginning of part 2. The dragon fight's very good. After that we get the library area. The library area is also very good. So far, with all of that, it's kind of just the same stuff we were seeing in part 1. But then we get to the last area. We get to the Evil King's castle, which I think is just really good. One of my favorite things that I didn't even really remember, but then when I got to it and read it here, I thought was incredible, was the scene when everybody stops. I think it's at the shop at the Evil King's castle. Everybody stops, has one last meal before the finale of that, and we just have all the characters who were left eating and smiling together, and it's all just really good. So that was a scene that I really loved that I didn't even remember that we were going to be getting going into this. The final monster fight is also really awesome. Something else I didn't quite remember, when they're fighting against the robot and the knight, or knights, and they're fighting against them, and Nokko-chan is like, things are getting bad, and Nokko-chan has to hype everybody up. Seeing things from Nokko-chan's perspective is very good. From there, we get into the heartbreak though, because it turns out that doesn't end the game. There is no Evil King there. And we get into the sort of real climax of everything. The Nonoko and Rionetta breakup scene, to me, is heartbreaking. That was really rough and really good. Then the Detic death, the Detic Bell death, was so well written too. And again, all the stuff, the little stuff that's coming into play with the true Evil King and stuff like that is so incredibly well weaved in with the death for Detic Bell. I cried at the Lapis Lazuli finding Detic Bell scene. That was so good. The scene where she finds her, just again, props not only to the original writer but for the translation team to really like still capture how well written that was. Again, speaking of Lazuli, the Lazuli plot points throughout part 2 are really good. How we get into the Children of Cranberry stuff, but Lapis Lazuli isn't the original Lapis Lazuli, so it plays into Fleur trying to bargain with the master, being like, this isn't a just game, you've already made a mistake. It plays into making Keek even more of a sort of villain, a bad person, by Keek being like, well, I messed up, but stuff happens. So that's really good. And then everybody getting their memories back, but not her, and how it plays to all the different characters. I teared up at the scene of Shadowgale getting her memories back, flashing back into her human form and immediately throwing up. That was really, really a great scene. We have a whole Chica segment after that that's really, really good. It's just super somber and beautiful. And then we hit the second to last chapter, which I actually think I might prefer the second to last chapter to the last chapter after rereading. It's incredible. It's so good. The Melville plot points all pay off amazingly, like all the hints at Melville all throughout the first part and, you know, the beginning of part two. It all pays off really good. And I love that we see all of this, or like most of this, you know what I mean, from Melville's perspective. Seeing from Melville's perspective in this scenario adds so much, and it actually adds so much like later on, not seeing or having not seen this from Clantail's perspective, but having seen it from Melville's perspective instead. It's so, in hindsight, it's so well done. Rionetta's end and Petchka's feelings surrounding all of that are really, really good too. I always loved Rionetta as a character. I always love, like, basically all of the characters. Like, I know some of them don't get as much time. I feel like at Nyan, after rereading, I like more, but I feel like Nyan was one of those characters that upon my first read, I was like, you know, they didn't get as much for me. But after rereading, I like them more. Of course, Daisy didn't get as much, but I feel like Daisy's character's front-loaded so well that you just like her and feel for her, even though she doesn't get much attention. Akane doesn't get much, but again, I'm just sort of talking about part one stuff. But generally, I like all the characters. So yeah, Rionetta's end and all was good. Petchka's sacrifice was amazing. I remembered it being amazing, but it was so much better than even I remembered it. It was so, so good. Then you get the Melville versus Lazaline versus Clantail finale fight, which is like an amazing finale for the action side of things. Or I guess a part one finale. Like, it's the first finale of two big cool fights, but one isn't about the action as much. So we get that. That's really good. Game still doesn't end, which takes us into the final chapter, which is really, really good. I love the setup for the Flea and Shadowgale and Clantail showdown. It's so, so good. And just seeing all of this from Shadowgale's perspective is very good. And seeing how, like, all the doubts and stuff have infiltrated her mind throughout the game. And then we have the final showdown with those three. And it's so good. It is so good how we have Shadowgale, the feelings of, you know, this can't be Clantail. Clantail isn't fighting, isn't acting like she's the evil king. It has to be Flea then. And her believing that it was Flea. And, oh man, it's so sad because she believes it's Flea and turns on Flea. She's the traitor, and then she has to blame herself for betraying Flea. And I felt so bad for Flea getting nailed in the face with a wrench, but then Flea gets knocked out of the area of Nokko-chan's effect and starts to realize, you know what, I was doubting Shadowgale, and I was like, even if I doubted her, she was like, I went into the game thinking, okay, there has to be one survivor. If Shadowgale is the evil king, I would just help her. I don't mind dying. And like, she wants to protect Momori that much, and it's like so good. But she's like, I wouldn't mind dying if it meant helping Momori survive, if it helped making her win. And then she's like, then over the course of the game, I started to doubt Momori, and I was like, that's weird. Why am I doubting her? And then, like, this moment of clarity as she gets nailed with a wrench and knocked out of the area and then starts dragging herself back into the area, bleeding, face all messed up, and being like, yeah, now I'm starting to doubt myself again as I get closer. And, like, all of that, the Nokko-chan plot points pay off so well. We get to cut to Nokko-chan's perspective where we see her thinking, okay, and like, I did all this horrible stuff, but I had to survive. I had to get this money because of my mom. And like, it's one of those things where you have to feel bad for Nokko-chan, but you also have to acknowledge that she did some really messed up stuff. How she was like, I kind of egged on Melville to do what she did using my power. I egged on Rionetta and Nonoko to clash with each other. I sort of isolated people from each other. I manipulated Flea and Shadowgale to doubt each other. Like, it was so well done. like all of the nokko-chan plot points pay off so well, and even small tiny things that you didn't expect like all come back around. And I love that it's super somber and emotional when they all see nokko-chan, who's cut her arm off or cut her hand off in the process of all of this, and like they're just sad. They're not like, yeah, we finished the game, we beat the king. They're not mad at her for what she did. They're just like, they're sad because it's like, crap, we have to kill Noko-chan or we can't leave, but we don't want to kill her. And then Noko-chan having her final stand of trying to convince them what to do with the money, like how she fought to the very end in her own way, trying to convince them and stuff. It's so good. And also with this whole thing, this is what I mentioned earlier about showing the previous sort of finale from Melville's point of view and not letting us see it all from Clantail's point of view. It helped so much because when you're there and when you have Shadowgale, who's like, statistically speaking, process of elimination, gotta be Clantail, right? But then she's doubting herself and she's like, wait, no, is it Flea? Something that adds so much is when I got to that point, I was like, oh, right, we haven't seen from Flea's perspective. We have not seen from Clantail's perspective. And so not seeing from either of their perspectives, only from Shadowgale's and from Noko-chan's, makes it so that during that fight, when you don't, like, again, if you don't know what's happening, you don't know that Noko-chan's going to be alive, it makes you think, you don't know if it's Clantail. You haven't seen from her perspective, and she's been really quiet, but she seems like a good person. And you don't know if it's Flea, because again, Flea's been trying to protect Momori, but you know from the memories coming back, the bad things she did and the deal she made with Cranberry in their previous exam, so you have to see where Shadowgale has reason to doubt her, at the very least, especially with the added Noko-chan manipulation. It's like, it's so good once you get to that point and you're like, right, we haven't seen from their perspective. So you, just like Shadowgale, don't know if it's either of them, which is really good. You just don't know for sure. Getting into the finale, then we cut away from that to go to our last sort of master side, Snow White side. Fall is great. Throughout the entire arc, I've really loved Fall. Again, Fall gets even better later on in the series, but I like Fall straight from the beginning. Fall is really good. I like the sort of twist that they took with Fav just being the Kyubey, essentially. I hate comparing MGRP to Madoka Magica because they're so different, but he's the evil mascot character. Fav was like the big bad of the first arc, in my opinion. Because even after Cranberry's taken down, Fav is still there. Fav is still keeping the game going on. Even after Swim Swim is taken down, Fav is the big bad. Fav is the final villain of Unmarked. So to take something that looks and sounds exactly like Fav and then switch it around so that you have to be like, oh wow, Fav was extremely evil, Fall's totally going to be the same way. So you have to think about that the whole time through part one and stuff, and you just see more and more, it's like, no, Fall's actually not the bad guy. Fall's a victim in all this. Fall's being forced to do this by the master. And it's so good. I really like Fall's character and how they completely switched up things from Unmarked. Snow White and Keek finale is very, very good. I will say, if you're just reading the volumes, like I have them right here up on my bookshelf, if you're just reading the volumes, I don't have like the special edition that has Snow White Raising Project. I don't know if the Snow White Raising Project special edition, I don't even know if that is in English or not, or maybe it's thrown in with Peaceful Days. I don't know. I don't have Peaceful Days yet. So I think Pithy Frederica knowledge helps, because if not, Snow White's just like, Pithy Frederica, and Keek's like, no, and falls into a black hole. And it's like, they give us the context that we need to understand why Keek is messed up, why Keek is terrible, and why Keek ends up collapsing in on herself pretty literally even. Even though it gives us that, I really feel like the context behind Pithy, the context of Snow White Raising Project, even for the rest of Restart, I think it helps. I think it helps to have that context. So reading this without the knowledge of Snow White Raising Project, I feel like would be a little bit less impactful or less good. And then after that, we get the epilogue ending. The Konoe, Momori, and Nene scene ending is really sad, really emotional. Very, very good. I cried my first time reading, I'm pretty sure, especially when we get to they visited 12 graves, or they had 12 graves to visit or whatever. That was really, really sad, really beautiful. it didn't really hit me as hard the second time because I knew it was coming, but it was still very, very good. I really hope the anime, because Restart is getting an anime, I really hope that it does it justice because of just how amazing Restart is. And I hope that in the future, I'm at Queens. I hope we get another arc that's this great. Like I said before, if none of you are aware, I'm doing this reread, and I'm doing these discussions as I finish rereading each volume. And then once I get back to Queens, I'll be going back to doing read-throughs, and then I guess I can do a review each time I finish one. But once I get back to it, I've been reading at the physical volumes now. Is it kind of stealing? I don't know where I lie moral-wise on reading the full volumes for like the official volumes for my read-through. I don't know how I feel about that or not. Should I do that? Is it fine? Should I just read the fan translation for the read-throughs and then buy and reread via the official translation for the reviews? I think maybe that's a bit better. Is there even that big a difference? I don't know. I just don't know where I lie on it morally, and I think maybe you all could help me out with that. At the same time, I got to the end of this and I was like, I'm hyped to read Limited, because again, if you look back on the channel, I read the entire series up through Queens on the channel, and so my read-throughs, I thought that Limited was solid all the way through, and then I got to the end and I was like, wow, the end really fell apart. Limited was my least favorite, so I'm excited. I haven't read it in years, which makes me excited to go back, reread, like really fresh, and see how my opinion might change on a second read-through. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so excited to get to that. I pull out the first volume from the bookshelf. It's like behind my computer, behind my recording setup. I pull out the next volume and I was like, wow. I was like, wow, Limited Part 1's kind of thick. And then I was like, oh, it's episodes. And I got so hyped because I had completely forgot about episodes. So next up is episodes. I'm like, I've been reading one a day. There are 15. I'm like 5 or 6 in. So I guess in another like 2 weeks-ish, expect my discussion like this for episodes. And then we'll be doing Limited Part 1 and 2. So yeah, and then eventually Queens again. I don't know, should I just read from the official like version, or should I read the fan translations like I had been doing and then reread through the official on my own in order to do my my reviews? Not sure, but I'm excited to continue on in the series. Just wanted to talk to you all about all this. I hope you enjoyed. I didn't really have some big wrapping it all together conclusion for you. Restart Part 2 is just amazing. Again, like the best thing I've read. Part 1's great. You gotta read them both together, of course. But Part 2 is just the best thing. It's so good. I guess that's about it, though. Thank you so much for sticking through this and watching. Like if you did like the video, and comment down there to tell me what you thought of Restart Part 2, my thoughts and all that. We can have a discussion down there. We can have a discussion on Twitter if you want, or on Discord. The server is free and open for anyone. Just ask and I'll give you a link. In addition to that, subscribe for more Magical Girl Raising Project, much more, like I mentioned. If you want to help support the channel, though, if you, like right now, if you want to help expand the bookshelf, because I don't have all of the physical volumes yet, a super thanks could add to the fund. Or if you want to get One Piece a bit early, if you want a shout out at the end of each video, you can become a patron or a channel member. It's patreon.com/Haku of the Tubes, or a link will be in the description, or you can just hit join down below to become a member. Thank you to people who are patrons and members. I think like, what, two of my things are references to Magical Girl Raising Project. Thank you to Chosen Regular Evan Holly, Magical Girls FR Nono Huarian and Smeller Dog, Cheriton Student David Langstaff, Slayer Candidate SG, and Pure Element Pate Ardealo. Pate Ardealo, believe. So yeah, Pure Element and Magical Girls. We got 2 MGRP references here. Thank you to all of them for all of their support. If you want to join them, it'd be greatly appreciated, but if not, it's fine. Just thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.